17 past here, Democrats on the House Armed Services Committee are calling on the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, to resign for revealing sensitive information in a group chat. They also sent a letter to committee chair Mike Rogers calling on him to bring Secretary Hegseth before the panel to testify about what exactly happened here. With us now is Washington Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Why are you calling on Hegseth to resign?
Well, two reasons. One, what he did was indefensible. He was transmitting battle plans ahead of attacks over a line that was insecure, that could have easily been picked up. It's unimaginable. You talk to anybody who's worked in any sort of national security position on any level, and if you had told them that this was something that would happen, they would have looked at you like you were insane. There's really no reason to be having that discussion on this platform. But then even worse has been the Secretary's response, which is to say, no big deal. There's nothing wrong with this, which clearly implies that he's going to keep on doing it. He doesn't even understand how wrong it is to, in advance of an attack, be transmitting the plans for that attack over an unsecured network. And that is just a level of incompetence that cannot be allowed to run the Department of Defense, in my view. We have to worry what's going to happen going forward if they think this is okay.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, Congressman, the use of Signal to have communications, I think even intra-government, one could see as being possible if the conversations are about, I don't know, a meeting next week at 2 p.m. or sure. Even, your committee meeting is to be called in and guys, you have to come back for a vote. But to discuss any kind of right. military action, whether it be in the past or in the present, certainly in the future, would seem to be as something that would be a red flag for everybody. And then the added fact that in that chat with the top intelligence officials of our country, there is a reporter who the administration says is actually someone who doesn't share any of the administration's perspective. How does that even happen?
Yeah, look, this needs to be investigated. That is the big point. How did it happen, and what are they going to do to make sure that it doesn't happen again? But also a more fundamental point that I made yesterday for Secretary Hegseth, why is he having this conversation with anybody, well, much less this group? Now, the conversation in the days leading up to it makes perfect sense. Again, not a conversation that you should have on the Signal app, but having a conversation with this group of principals to say, hey, what should we do? Now, I have noted that the complete absence of any uniform leader, like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from this conversation, is troubling. But the more troubling thing is, once they made the decision to go with the attack, why is Secretary Hegseth giving anybody a play-by-play? There's no need to give that play-by-play. The Secretary of Defense should be monitoring the operation, in contact with the CENTCOM commander. If they need something during the operation, then he needs to respond. But there's no reason to just treat this like you're watching a football game with a bunch of people and you commentate on it in advance. Let the operation play out. And that level of ignorance about how you're supposed to conduct this type of an operation in the hands of the Secretary of Defense, it's troubling, not just because of this one operation, but because of what's going to happen going forward. And also, we should talk a little bit about the notion of this was an outstanding success, so there's no problem. We're 12 days into this attack now. How is it going? This was a point Mike Waltz made that was completely wrong, saying, we're finally doing what Joe Biden wouldn't do. Joe Biden attacked Yemen repeatedly over this very issue, the blocking of the sea lane in the Red Sea. It didn't work. What's different this time? What operationally is happening? Instead, we have Pete Hegseth defending the indefensible and doing nothing to fix it.
And Congressman, I'm just wondering, as far as consistency across the board, why call for the Secretary of Defense to resign over this when others did not call for the then Secretary of Defense to resign over, for example, what happened in Afghanistan? Where's the difference there?
Well, a couple different reasons. One of the biggest reasons, and I did not initially call for Secretary Hegseth to resign when this happened, but the biggest reason is no acknowledgement of the problem. As I said, On Afghanistan, there was an endless array of investigations done by Congress, done by the White House, done by DOD, done by all kinds of different agencies. There was a clear acknowledgement of that problem and the need to analyze it. What really pushed me over the line was when Secretary Hegseth said, nothing to see here, business as usual, and also the dishonesty. You know, none of this was classified. You know, it wasn't a war plan. I mean, I don't know if it's so much dishonesty or hiding behind pathetic semantics. You know, I don't know. You ask anybody out there, if we said, okay, this is what we're attacking, this is when we are attacking, and this is what we are attacking it with. Now, I guess you can semantically say, well, that's not a war plan. Most people would think that that's at least part of a war plan, what you're going to attack, when you're going to attack, and what you're going to attack it with. So to just say, not a war plan, nothing to see here. So the unwillingness to even address a very serious issue is what has sort of pushed me to that point.